What is going on, good people? It's me, the man, the myth, the legend. Okay, I can't call myself that. It's only been 2 days. Let me be perfectly real here. It's only been 2 days since the last live stream discussion I did. Which, if y'all, mm, uh, I'm blinking on this right now. Wow. Quick disclaimer: if any one of you has not checked out Kaika Sese, it's a beautiful passion project that's done by one of my oldest friends in the Naruto fandom, Chad Georgiana. Go check it out. It's an incredible piece of work, and at the very least, if you're like a huge Naruto fan and a huge fan of Sakura, I think y'all would love to see what Chad has to offer there. No, this isn't me saying this because okay, it's an exclusive deal that I have to do to promote the channel. No, it's not that at all. I'm just doing it out of the goodwill of my heart. That's how I've always been though. But y'all aren't here for that. Obviously, y'all are here for Eden Zero, and I know it has been quite some time since I've actually done a discussion on Eden Zero because I want to say the last time I actually did one of these, we were just starting off the Eden's Zero reunion arc. I remember because 221 was the ending of volume 25, and volume 20 and chapter 222 signified the beginning of volume 26. And I want to say 26 ends on chapter 230. So when I looked at the estimate of the chapters, and then I looked at where we were currently, I was like, hold on. So if 26 stops at chapter 230, and 235 just not officially, obviously, since that chapter just came out, I was like thinking, well, okay, if I do the math correctly, I'm only behind by like 13 chapters. And when I say it like that, it's like, whoa, 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 lucky 13 chapters. Like, that's a lot of content. Like, you would have to go through a lot. And look, if we were doing this the original way, like, if we were doing like live reacting and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this stuff, like, we'd be sitting here for a while. But y'all already know what's gone down in these chapters of Eden Zero. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just dive straight into it. With chapter 223, which let me pull that up actually real quick. I should have done that from the jump. Eden Zero. No, I legitimately should have just had it up like off the gate because man, the stuff that's gone down in the chapters. There's been some interesting stuff, and I know what's caused a bit of a divide in the fandom. I know, like, especially if y'all are the ones that have, like, just coming out from Fairy Tale, is like, yo, what the, like, what? Why are we doing this? Or if you're like me and has been around since the rave days, you kind of go in with an open mind with with Hero, and this is kind of something I want to bring up here is the whole like I cannot believe all this stuff is happening. I'll dive into that stuff, like as I'm going through the chapters. But chapter 223, in a nutshell, again, I don't want to spend too much time on these, but you get little stuff. 223 for the most part was actually just a pretty fun chapter. You get a nice little reunion with, which a little bit more on the comedy aspect side of things too. And I mean, like this stuff with witches, like that hit. Oh my god! Like I remember reading this the first one. I was just like, and I know this irks some people because like this kind of takes away all the stuff that we got prior to what was it, prior to volume 20? Yeah, like prior to Universe Zero, it's like all it in a way, the argument is being made that we're losing all the stuff that we just dealt with just for this whole perfect world. And to that, I just have to say that was kind of the point. Like when you really sit down and think about this, all this stuff we've been getting has been leading up to this. So for anyone to, just saying like, look, and I get the arguments, I do. I'm not gonna say you're wrong for having those criticisms and whatnot, but one of the things that was already set up from the get go with this arc was, it's a world where everyone can be happy, and we were seeing that, when we got to Gilst, and when Wise got a chance to meet up with the guys, but this time, obviously, his mom's there, and it's like, whoa, like that shit was like pretty deep, and it like hits in a lot of big ways. That also kind of comes into the memory aspect too. So it's not like we meet up and then like, oh yeah, everything's hunky dory. No, like some of the crew members, it takes a little bit of time before they're able to get their memories back. Like the one specific one I can think of is, yeah, no, Weiss and Pino, I think, was like nearly instant as to how they were able to get their memories back. But like, who's the one I can think of? Like, take Hamura for example. Like, where I currently Hamura like just now got her memories back. That's the thing we need to take into account here. Hamura just recently, I want to say, what was it, chapter 234? 234, 233. I'm pretty sure it's 234. But I know, like, within these last few chapters, Hamura, like, just now got her memories back. It wasn't a case of, like, okay, we meet up with Shiki, and through Shiki, we remember stuff. No, it's not a matter of, like, okay, Shiki is the prime factor of us getting these memories back. No, it's not like that at all. There's certain triggers that are established for the crew remember everything. And here's the thing, it's not like everything's hunky dory with these memories. No. Everything that the crew went through up until this point, that still happened. And I think I did point that out in the last video I did with Eden. I talked about for Eden Zero. Everything that has transpired within the course of the story, all that stuff still mattered. Again, it's not a big reset of like, oh shit, like we're undoing everything. No. And especially after 235. No, 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 no. We're not even close to where we need to be. Because I mean the one running gag I've seen going on is the whole witch thing, which I actually do think is pretty amusing. Like you have Wise and Pino like giving witch a hug, and he's like, it's like I'm seeing a pattern here, and that pattern just constantly kind of gets repeated. It's what's the terminology I want to use here? It's like a gag, if you will. It's a pretty hilarious gag. But the big thing in 224, from what I noticed, was the whole information regarding Eden's one. And remember, this was whole setup in 224, and and it took us relatively 11 chapters to get that. But I do like the meta commentary we get from one. Like, man, what, like, Pino, like, don't hype us up like that. Like, um, the remodeled shower. What was that? Mom was on adventure when she was younger. Are you okay with this? But like, this was kind of something Rachel hinted at before they actually went to Universe Zero. It's a matter of fact that, you know, things that happen in Universe Zero may not turn out the way you want them to. And I know so far, like, because this whole setup started in chapter 220, and it's been 15 chapters, and I can already see the people like making their complaints of like, oh, like, where's the dread? Where's the trauma? A hero's building us up to that. I want to say that right now. We're getting there. I'm not going to sit here and say we're not going to get it now. I think we're still building up to it. Because keep in mind about this, and I always have to reiterate this every single time I get a chance to talk about Eden Zero. The story for Eden Zero, like, that blueprint was like mapped out already from Hero from day one. Like he already knew he had a checklist of like, okay, this is what's gonna happen in the story, this is what's gonna happen, this is what's gonna happen. The one thing, and that's the aspect of Rave Master Hero, is that when it came to Rave Master, Hero knew start to finish. Okay, what's the story gonna be? Who are the characters? How do we get from point A to point B? Like he knew all that stuff from the get go. If not from the get go, at the very least after Volume 9. I'm pretty confident about that. So like post Volume 9, Hero knew in Rave Master, like, okay, we know I know where the direction the story is gonna go. I know how these characters get from this point to this point. And it's all gonna culminate together into this amazing, unintended, masterpiece. Fairy Tale, keep in mind, was a story where, like he knew the character's backstory, but he didn't exactly know how the story was going to actually play out. So it George R. R. Martin said this best. Um, there are two types of authors. You've got the architect and you've got the gardener. The architect is the one who, plans out everything, has the blueprints, and goes to a point where, like, okay, at the core, what the story is, who the characters are, getting them to the directions where they need to get to. Whereas with the gardener, you're planting seeds and you're just picking and choosing, like, okay, how do we get from this point? What directions we're gonna go into? And Hero took that approach for Fairy Tale. In Fairy Tale, Hero took on the more gardener role, where he was planting a few seeds, and he was just like, okay, I'm just gonna let the story grow and just see where it goes from there. That's essentially was where Hero went with Fairy Tale. Now we get into Eden Zero, and again, I have to reiterate this point again. With Eden Zero, it's like a combination of the two. Like Hero took his experiences from Raymaster and he took his experiences from Fairy Tale and he melded them together into this. Where the architect side of the story are the bullet points that he needs. So from start to finish, Hero already has the story planned out. That's the architect side. It's like, okay, you have the bullet points of what the story is. Story starts here, middle story's here, and the story's here. He has those points planned out. Same thing with the arcs. Bullet points. Straight up bullet points. All that stuff Hero knew. The gardener side of things. Now that's where the fairy tale aspect comes in. The gardener aspect in Eden Zero is really simple actually. It's a matter of how do you get from, the first bullet point to the second bullet point, and then so on and so forth. That's where you get that element of the Eden Zero, where it's like, okay, Bullet points are there. It's just connecting the dots. That's the part about fairy tale. Is the unplanned part, the more Gardner role. Okay, how do we go from this point? And what is it going to take to get there? That's the part where it's like, okay, in a way, and I think Hero mentioned this too, to where it's like, I know the direction of the story, I know where it's ultimately going to go. It's just connecting the dots to those points. And that's what kind of gives it that unique and exciting, like, weekly feel. I believe that's what he said. It's, I gotta remember, this was, I want to say, volume three, or at the very least, like, one of, like, the super early interviews. Back when Eden Zero was still, like, barely at 100 chapters, too. But I do remember this. So it's, again, it's a very, very fascinating situation to deal with. But keep this in mind. So that's what I actually kind of find appealing about where we're going with this current arc. But you do get the usual comedy scenes, which I do think are pretty amusing. Just like last times, our teams will be dot 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 four. The one important thing was like, okay, which can't remember anything, and Pino has an explanation behind that, and the explanation for which not remembering anything is simply because which was already dead. Like, by the time they, leaped in time to Universe Zero, which was already long dead. And by that point, you can already make the case that, okay, that means if Valkyrie, which do come to find out is still alive, Valkyrie wouldn't be able to remember anything. Um, Shura wouldn't be able to know what was going on. Poseidon, Draken Joe, Ijuna, like Chelsea, just Chelsea. Uh, no one gives two shits. Let's be fair. No one gives two fucks about Jesse. In fact, I need that guy gone. Jesse needs to be dealt with ASAP. He needs to go. If Jesse's still around and pulling his little shenanigans, I'm gonna be like, yo, get this guy out of my face. Like, oh my god, Jesse is a stain. Let's be real here. Jesse is like that stain that you want to get rid of. Now we haven't come in contact with Jesse just yet, but I can only imagine what would happen if we were to do so. That being said, though, that being said, though, Elsie, there we go. That's the word. Elsie and Justice, they wouldn't be able to remember everything that happened either because they weren't there when the jump happened. And sadly, that also probably means that when we do run into Holy again, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna see Holy at some given point, or Holly, but I'm pretty sure it's Holly or Holy. I'm pretty sure that when we do run into Holly again, 9 out of 10, I do believe she's not gonna be able to remember anything because she wasn't in the time leap with everybody else. That's the unfortunate thing. So the only ones who'd be able to remember Shiki, Rebecca, Weiss, Laguna, Clean, Pino, Happy, Labilia, Couchpo, Connor, Clown, Hermit, and Rachel. That's it. Those would be whoever was on board the Eden Zero. Those are the only people that are going to be able to remember anything. Anybody outside of the ship like won't be able to remember anything at all, which is a bit unfortunate. And again, it's all thanks to Therion. Only though, yeah, and it's like with what Peanut says. Only those who were aboard Eden Zero had our memories carried over by my conjunction. That includes the billion cash flow. So yeah, only those that were on the ship will be able to remember. So I mean, look, as great as it'll be to get holy again, the sad thing is we're not gonna get those memories again from holy. But I think that's gonna make for an interesting dynamic when holy does show up again, if she even shows up again at this point. Perhaps then could trigger the memories. Nobody is saying whatever she pleases about Rebecca and her videos as usual, though. So I want to take the I believe I want to say Labelia is not you know the bitchy attitude Labelia that we knew from the beginning. I want to say that. But yeah, we get the planet Gills, and again, this is kind of where the creative liberties are taken with this arc, and something that I think is like really really fascinating. So when we get to Gilst, it's not the fake sister; it's the actual sister. Like Ivory's the one that's like actually in place, and I was like, whoa. I was like, that's kind of different and kind of something I wasn't expecting. That right there is where you kind of throw a curveball. It's like, okay, you're expecting things to turn out the way they are, but in actuality, that's not what happens. No, far from it. And we should have kind of expected that too, considering with Shiki's expectations. With okay, I know y'all are faking this. I know y'all are just gonna send me up into space, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" What? So I do like the little. It's like a meta commentary, if you will, at least on that chapter. This one, it's like, okay, Hero is kind of like leaving you with that expectation of you think this is gonna play out the same way, but it's not going to. Dude, especially Drac and Joe. There is something I gotta talk about here with Drac and Joe. Well, one thing that needs to be addressed here is I believe, and it's been a long time since I've actually seen Eden Zero. Actually, season two just started recently, so I want to say Drac and Joe had given a debt to Kurina, and Kurina had to do something to pay it off. But here, it's completely different. It's not Kurina that has to do the debt. It's actually Hamura. And when I sat there and thought about it, I was like, look, Hamura's been through some shit already in in the story so far up until now, but oh my god. Like, to get this, I was like, not even that. But the fact that we were getting Dragon Show again like this quickly, it kind of had me a little concerned as to like what was going on. But like I said, this is an instant to where we get the memories thing come into play. And like I said, it's not Shiki that's a trigger, it's just whatever. It's like the moment, if you will. So, like how Ivory has like that obsession of like, ooh, you could kind of be my new plaything. And when she does that, like the whole I gotta remember what it's actually called, but like the torture stuff. Like she has an addiction to like torturing people. And when she was doing that, it kind of triggered a memory for for her. Like, and it's funny because a lot of like her thoughts actually revolve around like just all the stuff that she would do to Rebecca. So it's kind of amusing that things like that is what would trigger, you know, the people on the crew to remember stuff. And again, you see her getting her memory back, getting the memory of, you know, comforting Hermit, like even like trying to like cry out to Witch when Witch was still alive after what happened to Valkyrie. And then of course little conversations with Shiki. And it's like, whoa, it's actually kind of cool. And again, I know some people are like, like why? Well, why is this a thing? Like, this is completely unnecessary. It's total BS, but it's not. In the context of the story of Eden Zero, this makes perfect sense. Everything we're seeing so far in Eden Zero, it lines up. I'm not gonna say it's 100% perfect, but with the world Hiro Mashima is built in Eden Zero and how the story was going, I think the direction for the most part makes sense. It does, but you get that. You see her having her her little funsies, if you will. And again, like little meta commentary, like, "Oh, this is like a new game plus for you." It's like, yeah, we're coming back here, but you still have her skills and everything. But let's flash forward a little bit because this is where things get interesting. Because when we go to the Belial Goer, oh, and Allega, oh my god, yeah. So that's another thing. So when Allega shows up, during this whole procedure, it was Rebecca in the situation, and this was still a pretty messed up scenario. All things considered, this was still a pretty messed up scenario. But this time, in actuality, it's Amora. But the one that's able to break them out of there is none other than Moscow. And Moscow, he beats the shit out of Allega, and then they're able to kind of get out of there. Which then brings us over to the Belial Goer. And again, kind of similar to the Belial Goer arc, you expect things to play out, you know, how they usually do. One of the biggest things that I kind of noticed about Ivory in this universe is that, she's a little bit more bubbly. Because I don't really think we saw like a bubbly aspect to Ivory within Eden Zero prior to like getting the saga. So I think that's actually kind of cool. It's like, yeah, like they have their memories back, but their experiences are a little bit different. Therefore, their personality is going to be a little bit different. So I think that's kind of nice. And then you got why you going in the Arsenal prototype mode, but you see this, you get to the fight. Now again, the biggest change is right over here. Not necessarily. Oh yeah, this is another one too. Is with Lagoon, but with Gene and or with Jin and Clean. Like they don't get their memories back instantaneously, like it does with. Again, it's a very Ivory like situation where they don't just get their memories back because it's Shiki. Like something triggers it. Like with Ivory, it was her getting her pleasurable fills with Rebecca, and that's kind of what triggered her memories and coming back. And with this, it's like, okay, you're Jin, you're clean. Hey, stop calling clean. You are clean, clean. But yeah, you get that. Ivory tells Jin and Clean that that she's gonna be the one that deals with them for the most part. And something that's also taken into account here with universe is, or what the Eden Zero reunion arc is, that a lot of like the trauma that they went through in this universe, it's fine. Like, what I mean by that is whatever experiences they've went through in this world is like not none and void. Like it's not present at all. Which again should have been like a clear indication given the fact that Happy's not a robot anymore, which is a little unfortunate because I actually thought Robot Happy was kind of cool, but to make him like be, yo, I got flesh and skin now, I'm like, well, I guess that kind of makes you a little less useful. I just want to say, but here's where things got super intriguing with Eden Zero. I mean, they were already it already got intriguing enough when this arc started with like, okay, the robots and everything. You 100% expect Laguna to be here. Let me say that right now. You 100 expect, if you were reading this part of the story at the current time when the chapter came out, you know for damn sure Laguna should have been at the spot. But that's not what Hero did. This is where Hero threw a curveball. Gravity, the same power as the Emperor. And what we got instead of Laguna was Poseidon. And I really wish I read this chapter when it came out because, dude, when Poseidon showed up, the first thought that entered my mind was, "What the hell are we gonna do? Like what?" Like it was mad crazy. It was mad crazy to see what we got. Not just that though. Laguna. Actually, it's kind of interesting getting the whole perspective with Laguna too, because we come to find out that Laguna is a part of the rebellion. Actually, not the rebellion, but Shura for the most part. Actually, let me see real quick with what we find out about Shura. I know, okay, for a fact, Shura is the new emperor, which is why Poseidon's in the position that he's currently in with Dragon Gel. What I thought was actually kind of intriguing. Um, Not only that, you had Witch tell the crew that she'll be the one that tries to get in contact with Hermit, and Rebecca's taking care of the folks that are trying to take her down. And yeah, like at this point, Rebecca would have been kind of useless, but not useless per se, but she wouldn't have been as powerful on taking down some of these people. But because her powers still come into play prior to them entering Universe Zero, it kind of gives her a bit of an advantage. And the when it comes to the aspect of leaping through time, that's the only thing that Rebecca doesn't have access to because it's like what Rachel said. Once you enter Universe Zero, like your ability to go back in time is gone. Like there's no redos on this one. Like if something happened in Universe Zero, it's like set in stone. So that's kind of where the stakes are at. And I know a lot of people are like, Where are these stakes?" But needless to say, you get the combat between Shiki and Poseidon, which I think is actually really, really cool. And the fact that Shiki has the wormhole ability still, especially at this stage in the story, is something. I actually think it's nice to see. And this is kind of where we get the explanation that Poseidon stepped down a long time ago, and he chose to spend his retirement, at the Belial Goer, and that's how he came in contact with Draken Joe. And we get the explanation that the empire's prospered since his rule, and it's now under the care of Emperor Shura. And this is where we get the explanation with Laguna. So Laguna is at this point currently the leader of the Oasis, an organization that plots to rebel against the Empire. And then cut to 228. You still get the situation with Moscow and Hamura, like trying to escape from Gils, and all the while you get uh, Ivory dealing with Jin and Clean. These expressions on Clean's face. She's like, this woman. Well, what is she talking about? Like, I know I'm kind of like jumping through the chapters, but I just want to get to like the basic point. Gonna have a touching reunion. She's gonna beat the hell out of them. And here's the thing: Rebecca may not have access to her time leaper ability, but she's still able to access overdrive. And here's the thing: with Rebecca using overdrive, like she's still powerful. The only difference with this, and it's actually something I do appreciate, it's the fact of the matter of that when she was able to use overdrive, she was powerful, right? So, like, she was a little older. That's when the time skip hit. And they don't really have that luxury here. They're still, like, in their pre time skip form. So, in a way, you're kind of stuck. But when you get this from Pino even explains to Shiki, like, hey, it's not wise to use the wormhole ability because your body's not able to keep up with it. Because you're still, younger at this point in time. It wasn't like back then where the time skip happened and they were able to train and everything. It's not like that happened at all. See, body's matured past by 3 years currently, and yeah, that they grew up. Like Happy points out exactly what I'm saying. So when that happens, Rebecca decides to pull out the gun, uses it to take out the enemy. See here. I thought you didn't because they were just for show. But let me just say this: Rebecca's like putting in work. I mean, like a lot of work. And dude, when she was pulling off stuff like this, I was like, "You go, Rebecca," because it actually looks really amazing. And I actually noticed something that stood out to me before, and it's the smash panel. Like it's a very like westernized like approach to it. And I know around this time, Hero did announce that he just got done talking to somebody at Marvel and that he might potentially be working on a storyline for Marvel Comics. And part of me is kind of like thinking, is this like Hero like subtly hinting that like whatever he does next, I'm not saying like the fourth work, but that eventually down the line he'll like do like a comic or sorts for Marvel. Which, hey, if he does that, I'm really curious. I'm like super, super curious with what Hero could possibly do. But that said, though, this chef's kiss. It's beautiful. Your accuracy got sharper. Well, yeah, of course. It's because of all the video games I'm playing. And she was also saying, like, this is how it was 3 years ago, right? My it's like it was before. It's before it started going. Then you get the 229. And 229 is actually relatively simple too. Hermit shows back up, which was actually like really, really amazing. And the thing Hermit does, I think, is actually like pretty incredible. And it's interesting getting her side of things too, because and we'll actually get there. Because she uses a hologram of like witch in like a bunny outfit, and she's like, "Well, why are you using a hologram of me?" And she's like, "For the service." Which, if you go back to the flashback with baby Shiki, that's a huge callback to that. But I think that's a payoff. I think that's like a good payoff to that specific moment. If I'm being perfectly honest here, he does that. Then what was the point of the hologram of me? And I love the expression on Hermit's face because she like half of it was to troll him, the other half was for the but okay, no. So 230. So chapter 230, relatively simple. So they're all dealing with this, and we get this off screen. So Hermit, not Hermit, but Ivory takes care of Jin and Clean, and we end up finding out is that Jin and Clean getting their memories, like, that was off screen. We didn't get a chance to see that, which I think is kind of unfortunate because it would have been cool to see, just how they were able to remember. But the fact that they didn't. Well, I mean, we get a side explanation right here from Jin. It's like, hey, that's not the problem. We remembered like midway through the fight. Long awaited reunion's all over. She hugs Clean. Emergency, emergency. The leg is there. There's Amora. And I gotta say, this part here, like, I thought this was actually a really cool scene between. Like, I don't care what anyone has to say. This junk here with Shiki versus Poseidon was straight up fire. Like, I loved what we were getting here. And it kind of goes to show you, like, what level Shiki's on right now. And yeah, like, given how powerful Shiki is, and I love the hero through the sin. It's like, okay, like, yeah, I have these abilities, but I'm not at the same pace as I was, prior to getting to Universe Zero, because by that point, Shiki was a little bit more older, and thus he was able to, gain a little bit more control. But because he has that power, he can't access that. And it kind of makes me think when we do get the time skip, and I honestly do believe we're gonna get that at some point. I do think eventually, like Hero knows. I think Hero knows fully that we're gonna have to get back to the 3 year time skip at some point. Ugh, but nah, you get this, and I gotta say this: when I gotta say, us getting Overdrive Route Ziggy, like that was nice. I thought that was really, 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 really cool. But again, it's not something that Shiki can use constantly. It's an ability that Shiki can only use momentarily. And what I think is kind of interesting too about the Ziggy Overdrive form is that you kind of get the long Shiki hair that we got from chapter one. So I thought that was actually kind of nice. And even though Poseidon got stopped, he tells Shiki like, "Hey, I think you're the only one that can stop that tyrant, Emperor Shura." So that kind of does kind of showcase that Shura is still like a force, not a force. He's still someone that you can't exactly mess with. Like legitimately, it's a lot to process with them. But no, you get that. And right after this happens, that's when this man shows up, freaking Dragon Joe. And when you see what we see, give me a second, I'm getting a call. No, but when you see this, it's like, wait a second, like, how are you gonna make Dragon Joe and them buddies? And I think the situation with Dragon Joe is interesting because, like, because what you get this time around, Shiki understands Dragon's situation. He knows he knows everything that the man's doing, and he catches Dragon Joe up to speed. Like, what? In the first universe, you won. Second universe, we won. Actually, no. Yeah, second universe, we won. Now I'm the one, and it was like the third time they met, and you get the whole friendship thing, but you get this nice like comedic side to Dragon Joe that I never really thought we would have actually gotten. And I think one of like his assistants pointed out like, wow, I cannot believe we're seeing Dragon Joe get like super worked up about this. Like even Poseidon's like laughing about this too. But Dragon Joe at the same time isn't really budging it until Shiki mentions that he knows about the past. He knows what Dragon Joe did. And at least just a little bit of it. But, he was born on a planet where life was short. He was obsessed with living, and he stole the lives of people. And he wanted to live longer because he wanted friends. But the biggest difference with Dragon Joe in this universe is rather than using people, he's using animals. Which again, it's still like to the core of the character. Like he's still taking life in order to live longer. It's just not with people. It's still kind of messed up though, because it's like it's still an act of cruelty to some degree. It's just that you're not using it on like human lives, but you're still sacrificing lives regardless to, in turn, like do with what you're able to do. Sorry about that, guys. My mouth is getting dry. I'm gonna need some water. But no, like you get the banter between Dragon Joe and Shiki, and very much like in the original timeline. Not the original timeline, but like I think what was it, Universe 2? Um, very much like in Universe 2. Like Drac and Joe reveals that hey, I don't have much longer. Like if you wanna but if you mention the other world and everything that's happened there, if all that's true, then you already know what's gonna happen. And he even warned Shiki too, like he's like, "Hey, quit this kind of work." And he even says like you don't understand the thing. Like that's like there needs to be a balance between light and darkness that keeps the world turning. So here's my advice: as a senior by 200 years, there's a thing called necessary evil. Remember that, and that I think is a very very honest statement. And it kind of gives you kind of like a good reflection on life because sometimes, and I'm not saying it's right, but sometimes in order to achieve things, you gotta go to certain limits, to certain degrees. And oftentimes, you know, it might not lead you down the right path. Like it's what's the terminology called? Like the phrase. It's like, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's kind of like that. But Shiki even tells him, like, hey, look, even if that's the case, like, you still have a chance to be a hero. The sooner you do it, the better. And Shiki then asks Pino, like, hey, what's the time limit? And Pino says, like, hey, there's still like another 3 days before the chronophage strikes Gills, which everyone starts freaking out, like, what the hell? Like, how? Like, before the chronophage strikes, right? And what we get is Shiki telling people, like, hey, if you still want to evacuate everybody, you can still do that. And he even, and this panel shot is actually really badass, where Shiki tells Drac and Joe, like, you don't want people to die, do you? And then that happens, and Drac and Joe immediately says, like, hey, let's just try to get a little busy and just try to save everybody. That's what we're meant to do, just try to help people. And then we get another scenario, clean, giving a hug to Witch, and Witch is like, again? The third time around? And then we get Hermit's little explanation as to like what she's been up to. So she's still in Digitalist, but the major difference with Hermit is that she didn't have to go through what she went through. Essentially, the whole situation with Mueller, that didn't happen this time with her. So what ended up happening and how she was able to remember everything was getting a chance to see Witch. Like that's what triggered it for her getting her memories back, and that's exactly what I mean. So it's not necessarily that okay, you see Shiki and Shiki's gonna be like the one that leads everyone to get their memories back. That's not the case. It depends on the person or thing that you interact with. Like I said, with Sister, it was the thing she likes to do the most, and that's just for her pleasurable desires. That's what's able to get her to regain her memories. And with why and not with Wise, but with Laguna and with Clean, again, that's kind of off screen, but we kind of get the notion of okay, it happened midway through the fight with Ivory. And then Hamore's situation too. It's a little bit different because she's not able to remember anything. And it's kind of led to believe that Valkyrie still kind of met the same fate as she did original, like in the previous universes too, to where she died. The only major difference this time though with Ivory not with Ivory, but with Valkyrie is that she got beheaded. And with her being beheaded, if you remember with Ziggy, Ziggy got beheaded, yes. But the only difference with Ziggy is that even though he got beheaded, he was still able to function and everything. So, in that specific case, like, yeah, Valkyrie did indeed die. But the big major difference is that, Creed was there. And, or, Lord Seiji, if you will. So let's go with Seiji. Seiji was the one that rebuilt Valkyrie and everything. And this is kind of stuff we find out within the last few chapters. But the big thing I did notice with them getting to Sunjul was that instead of like Kurenai being the one to go in for the assault and like wreak havoc on Sunjul, she's actually one of the ones that's like defending the place. And I was like, whoa, like that. See, and that's the thing. That's what Rachel mentioned is that things in universe happen can go the way you don't expect them to, but it could also do things that are much worse. And again, the worst part has not happened yet, which is what has me a little curious. But like like even this guy makes a comeback too. Nino, like I love this man. Yo, anime will save. I'm gonna stop because that's actually really, really amusing. But yeah, like you get this whole situation where Kurenai comes in, she's like, "Yeah, hey, we're the Shield. We're gonna defend the planet." And she's like, "What? How in the world? Like, excuse me?" And we come to find out that Kurenai kind of went through some shit too. That uh, case in point, Kurenai went through some shit as well when it came to her end of the deal. So it's not like Hamura didn't go through some tragic stuff because she did, but when Kurane kind of came into a pickle during the fight, that's when Valkyrie stepped in. And as soon as Valkyrie stepped in, Hamura's memories like started to flash, like at an instant, and it's like, whoa, what the hell? Like what happened? And I gotta say, like this panel shot over here of Hamura like using Dragon Flash was amazing. I thought it's if there's one thing that Hero's always been known for this, like his panel shots. So certain shots when it comes to you know, like battle and stuff, he can put in a lot of work into. Like the overdrive Ziggy form for Shiki was actually amazing. But get to chapter 234, and we get the explanation from Valkyrie. And Valkyrie explains that she stayed on Sunjul because actually, and see, that's the other thing is that I remember people were saying that like, oh, like Valkyrie was such a big, heavy loss, and we're just undoing stuff. But here's the thing: this actually leads for a good opportunity for Valkyrie to, you know, play a huge major part. And one of the things I remember going through the Sunjul arc, I was kind of thinking, like, man, I kind of wonder how the interaction between Shiki and Valkyrie would go. And again, that's one of the that's I think the beauty of this saga so far is that now we're getting things that we otherwise could not have gotten before. And I know some people will probably say, we're just going light again. We're going to fairy tale approach. That's exactly what I've seen people say. about this. And look, regardless of what people say, we're like again, this is only the calm before the storm. Keep that in mind. This is only the calm before the storm. Hero wants you to feel this way on purpose. He wants you to feel a certain way, and then when the triggers pull, the triggers pull. So whatever like downside you may be feeling about this current arc, like especially chapter 235, dude. Chapter 235. I'll get to 235 in a second. But basically, the reveal we get is that Seiji's the one that repaired Valkyrie, and Valkyrie actually even went to go look for Homura too. But by that point, Homura had already left, and Valkyrie even said that, "Hey, I went to go see Xiao Mei," and Xiao Mei just said that, "Hey, just wait on Sunjul and show up here." And then she came to Sunjul. She ran into Kurenai after dealing with a lot of stuff that happened. And again, I love that Kurenai, given like even though like she's trying to do what she can to like help out the planet and the people of Sunjul, like she still like she feels like she feels so bad for leaving Hamura behind. But essentially, like, like she got roped into everything. She felt like horrified by everything that just went down. And we also kind of come to find out that Dragon Joe, like, essentially did what he did just based on false information. And, she kind of formed the vigilante group known as the Punishers. And she was kind of hoping that, like, eventually, like, when the time came, like, she could be a mother that, Homura could be proud of. And Homura, like, just says that, hey, like, hey, I'm so proud of, like, what you were able to do with, everything that happened. And that kind of scares off Kurenai a bit because with that situation, she remembers that guy. But Shiki and the crew, they've already taken him. Like, I'm like, oh, like, this piece of shit, we take care of him. Like, you got nothing to worry about now. And again, that still worries Kurenai because like, but there's still that satellite in the air, which I'm more like, yeah, no such thing exists. I mean, the Eden Zero main canon, huh? The time for your freedom has come, mother. And you get Kurenai breaking down. She starts to embrace her daughter, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of got a little feels here. I was like, damn, like it really hit deep in the feels, at least for me personally. But again, we spent like nearly an hour like of me just catching up to all these chapters from 223 to 234. And I'll say this up to 220, 234. Look, I think so far Hero has done a great job of of you know telling the story of this current arc so far, the arc of us getting the reunion. And here's the thing: we haven't gotten everybody yet. We're still missing Labelia. We're still missing Couchpo. We're still missing Laguna. So there's still a few other members and Connor. So make that four people. There's still four people that we still need to kind of get. we've nearly got almost everybody. There's just a few more people left, and then once we get the last few, it's like set. But if I were to give a rating so far with like all these chapters, I know I was kind of speeding through it a little bit, but again, from where I left off to now was relatively like 12 chapters, and I figured I'd go through my quick thoughts just on those chapters. So I think as a whole, again, it's not pure perfection. I would say it's nearly close to a me. Nearly. The only thing holding it back just a little bit is again, like, yeah, the sense of danger isn't exactly there, but this whole aspect of like, yo, what's gonna happen? Like there's that sense of mystery to it as like, okay, which direction is Hero gonna go into? And I think with each of these events that we're revisiting, he's pulled them off really, really well. And there's like a twist to the story, if you will. Again, in Sun Jewel, it was Valkyrie that was the shield for the planet on Sun Jewel. And here, it was actually Kurenai. And I thought that was really nice. And again, same thing with Draken Joe. Which, and again, a lot of people said, yo, you cannot redeem Draken Joe. Draken Joe was like the baddest of the baddest. And look, Draken Joe is a formidable threat. He is not a person you want to mess with. But again, this whole ordeal. Let me pull up the chapter. Hold on, because folks need to remember this. Mad folks need to remember this about the Edens 1. Or not Edens 1, was what Rachel said. Universe Zero might turn out to be exactly what you wanted to be, but it might turn out to be everything you don't want. Either way, whatever happens in that world will overwrite all the other universes and merge them into one. That's what Rachel says. And it'll even overwrite your memories. And here's the thing. Rachel brings up the possibility of Happy's robot body. How that accident could indeed kill Happy. And I wanted to keep this as a reminder for people. Happy may be flesh and blood right now. Keep this in mind. That just makes him more of a target now. Like before, it was like, okay, Happy gets destroyed. Now it's like if Happy's dead, I mean, unless Professor Weiss is off somewhere, like Happy ain't coming back. Happy ain't coming back at all. All the people who know you will have their memories modified, and they'll only remember you as a cat that died in an accident. Those memories will realign with the current events, and the new memories will become the truth. Could you please spare us the doom and gloom before you survive? But Rachel also does say it doesn't matter what world is waiting for you in Universe Zero. Everything about it will become truth, and you won't get any do overs. And that's the thing I want people to realize is that there's no turnovers this time. There's no second chance. Anything that happens now is just set in stone. And again, that's just the point I've had to bring up again. And again, they're doing all of this to save Mother. And again, I would like to believe that we'll eventually get back to the time skip. I really do hope we get that again. I really do. Because the time skip was like one of the most refreshing things about Eden Zero. Like when you compare it to Rave Master and Fairy and y'all know how much I adore Rave Master. And again, one of the most unique factors about Rave Master is that you don't necessarily go through a time skip. It's a journey. But here's the thing. Fairy Tale had a time skip, but the thing about the time skips was Fairy Tale is that like the character designs don't really change that much. Eden Zero went, no, we're getting a time skip, we're changing characters, we're making them look older. I was that actually looks really, really sick. And yeah, okay, with Universe Zero, it's like where it was kind of like a back to square one situation, but it's like with what Ivory said. It's like a new game plus. So again, I do want to say that we will eventually get back there. Eventually. Authorization granted. Again, this is from Universe Zero, right? Let's go to Universe Zero. We'll find each other again. Get you guys, me neither. Yeah. So I mean, this still kind of blows my mind that the ship that Shiki saw, like that comet, was actually the Eden Zero. I was like, dude, what? Like to tie it all the way back to that, it's freaking nuts. I'll say. That's it though. Chapter 235. And Chapter 235 is actually really, really self explanatory for the most part. The first half of it is kind of just banter, like fun comedic banters, if you will. You got Hermit crying for Valkyrie because she's not dead anymore. Um, we kind of get an understanding of why, of where Hermit's like need for training in the bath comes from because in a way, you can kind of say that's where Valkyrie got. It's like with Gray and with Orr. Like Orr's stripping habits and how that kind of rubbed off on Gray. It's kind of like that with Valkyrie. So Valkyrie has the idea of like, yeah, let's train in the bath. And throughout the course of Eden Zero, like that's been like a gag with Hamura, like, yeah, we should train. And this is actually funny too, every time I think about it. And Rebecca's just like, really? You want to fight here of all places? But then a point gets brought up. A simple point that in the spa, that's where the ether is able to be a little bit more accessible, which is something we know about. But Hermit does say that she did a little bit of research on what went down on Elsie's world on Lindard, and we come to find out that there was never a war to begin with. So Elsie at this point should be a princess, and if that's the case, she's probably hitting it off with James, who's probably the king. And with how they came to know Elsie, Rebecca, and Homura, they're just like, I don't know. And keep in mind about this: James and Elsie were dead. Like they weren't able to be a part of the jump. So if they meet Elsie and James, like they're not going to be able to remember anything. So again, it goes back to a point where like those consequences still matter for the most part. Sort of the Edens, yeah. We already talked about this. The abilities and whatnot. Um, getting a little tired. Again, the first half is like just it's kind of just fluff, but you do get like some information, if you will. And I think the information that you do get is again it's interesting because you know a little bit more about like where everyone's standing is and with the world. But the biggest stuff actually comes in the second half. The second half of this Like, you have Wise saying, "I never thought we'd get Valkyrie," and Jen says, we just need to get Laguna next." And Shiki says, "Don't forget, we need to get the captain's, we need to get Rebecca's dad, Captain Connor," which Happy says Labelia and Miss Couchpo too. So yeah, those two are gonna show up again. We're gonna get Connor. We're gonna get Labelia and Couchpo. So there's at least four. Four people are still on the need a grab list. So well, first we go to the Alley Cosmos, get Laguna, and why is like isn't he the leader of the Oasis now? And Jin's like, and Shura is the emperor in this world. And the point does get brought up about like, it's not gonna be easy to be friends with Shura. In fact, it's like damn near gonna be impossible. And Shiki's like, huh, why not? And they're like, you know why. But again, something we got in chapter 224 with Pino about the whole tease of Eden's one, that comes back into play here. Everyone, I have an important thing to say. And that's where we get the information that Pino was built to destroy the Eden's one. That's been Pino's entire purpose this entire time. Throughout the course of the story, like her EMP ability was specifically there so she could be the one to take down the Eden's one. And I know at first it's like, yo, what are we doing? Like, we really making a fish? The final boss like a mechanical fish? Like of all the characters to supersede Ziggy. Like, okay, the Eden's one twist um was like, whoa, okay. And I did see some people going like, really, man, though? A fish? A mechanical fish ship? That's what the final boss is gonna be? And Hermit said, I had a feeling that was the case. But Ziggy's the one that built the one in the first place, right? Why make Pino to destroy a ship he made himself? And Pino goes on to explain that the Eden's one was equipped with the ultra high performance AI. But as a result of that, the AI running away with itself. And like even Ziggy couldn't get a handle on it. And because of that, it was able to take over Ziggy's body and said it would exterminate humankind. To which Valkyrie says, for an android to stop the thing, you're a bit puny. No, teacher. Pino's EMP poses a threat to machines. And Pino says, recorded within me is the Eden's one's destruction code. To destroy the ship, that is my mission. And Shiki says something. He says, no, it's not Pino, huh? True. We got to do something about the Eden's one. I haven't forgotten that. But that doesn't just make it your mission. And it wasn't Grandpa's mission either. It's for your dream. He wanted you to always follow your dreams. That's what this fight is for. So that this happy world doesn't get destroyed. Is what he says confidently. And then you get the nice, cheerful remark from Pino saying, right? You get everybody smiling. Even Valkyrie and Homura smile too. And Hermit still says, like, still, we have to take preemptive measures. It'd be no laughing matter if Ziggy's body got hijacked in this world. Ah, actually, that is the important thing I wish to discuss. And in Mashima fashion, OMG. freaking G. Like when Hero decides to cut over to the Eden's one ship, I was like, bro, come on, come on, man. We were just getting something like amazing, and then we cut over to the ship. Now, at first, I was like, okay, we're getting the ship, and then we're gonna get the explanation. But Wizard's there. We see Wizard, and Wizard's like, the Zero is on the move, Master. And at first, I was like, there's no way that's Ziggy. Because we saw Ziggy. Ziggy is, you know, he's he's there as a monument, as like a memorial on Granville. I was like, there's no way it could be him. But this figure was like, the stars are weeping. They pity us, who possess no lives. Or perhaps they lament the suffering of humans who do. You needn't cry any longer. I'll I shall no. I shall put you at ease. You have the power to make your dreams a reality. An armor and ether that surpass even Lord Ziggy's, is what Wizard says. And guys, when I saw this last panel, I lost it. Like as soon as I saw this final panel for 235, you know what the first thing that hit me was? I was like, Hero just proved all of the naysayers wrong. Like, yo, I know everything seems like it was hunky dory, and then look what he pulls right over here. Over new Ethereon Void. A mysterious machine where Eden's one is enshrined. Who is this being that transcends even Ziggy? So for everyone that was saying, "Yo, we're just gonna fight a mechanical ship. That's who we're gonna fight," bro, that's a little lame. Like to go above Ziggy, we're fighting the ship. Ah, no, 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 no. That is not what we get here. What we get is that somebody was there within the ship. And this was, I think I called this too. I remember mentioning there, like, okay, there is the ship, but I do feel like there's something within the ship, something we don't know about the Eden's one. And the Eden's one has always been like a mystery within the course of the story. And to now get an idea that now is not essentially that the ship itself is a threat. Like, yeah, the ship is a threat for sure. Duh. But the fact that we have like a physical form, like a body, someone again that's able to transcend Ziggy. And look at what that initial stand for. It's ONEV. And I think I'm gonna call him Onev. I think Onev actually works because again you have over new Ethereon Void. And again, if you acronym that, it's 1V. But I'm gonna go ahead and say no Ev, you know, not no Ev. Onev, because I don't know, Onev just sounds that actually sounds pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. Onev, like yo, and this is what I always tell people: never, when in doubt, look, never underestimate Hiro Mashima. When it comes to moments, man knows what he's doing. He knows for damn sure what he's doing. And again, unlike with Fairy Tale, where he took the gardener approach, Eden Zero has the combination of the architect and the gardener. But And it's not just that. So you get Onav, and then the last line of dialogue is right here. The strongest king of machines in the universe. To be continued in chapter 236. 1 plus 4 equals 6. No, 1 plus 4 plus 6. 11? I think it's a math problem that just stuck up, and I'm like, that's 11. And again, I don't think we're done with the arc quite yet because we still got a few more people we got to pick up. Again, just 4 people. We got Connor, Couchpo. Well, actually, no. Couchpo. If we're not counting Rachel, because Rachel's where we got to get to, well, we're just missing 3 now. We're just missing Connor. No, actually, no. It is 4 because before we get to Rachel, Connor, Labilia, Couchpo, and Shura. And right now, Shura is like the prime person we're going to get to. But dude, no, like I legit have to wonder. Like, Onav is a mystery. And I could dive more into Onav like in a future discussion video. You know, like maybe later on this week, when I have the time, I'll do a discussion video on Onav and give my quick little thoughts on, like his role in the story. Like, obviously, we know he's going to be the final boss. Like, now, folks can actually say this is the guy that's gonna surpass Ziggy. Onev. Onev is here, and Onev, just based on this first appearance alone. You know what? It could also just simply be that Onev is, the AI of the ship that just gotta, you know, that built himself a body. It could just be that too, but like, my guys, like the possibilities again with Universe Zero, it's endless. Just because things are hunky dory, and I've been saying this throughout the entire stream. Just because things are hunky dory does not mean that we're gonna go through this like smooth sailing. We're gonna get some casualties. It's only a matter of time. So whatever grace period we have right now with the crew, enjoy it for what you will right now, because I promise you, things are gonna go dark super, super quickly. It may not be. It's not. If I have to take a guess, it's probably not gonna be like as dark as I think we would go, but I don't know yet because this whole thing also stems back to what Rachel said of like things may not turn out the way you want them to either. So that's still an important line of dialogue that people need to keep in mind. And with that, you guys, that's pretty much all I have got to say when it comes to this incredible catch up with Eden Zero. 13 chapters. Like, I mean, this chapter just literally like just dropped today. And overall rating, look, last chapter, or this chapter, 235, would have just been like great, great plus. I'm moved up to amazing plus. Just because of that ending. That ending, that sealed the deal for me. So it's an amazing plus. So overall, they're gonna get, and again, because most of the chapters I gave like okay, there wasn't like a concrete rating system I gave for the chapters. I just said from 223 to 234. It overall wraps up to like great plus because it's like a combination of sorts. Can it go from great, great plus, amazing, perfection? Like there's certain chapters that are like that, but overall, like if I were to rate it, still, I think it'd still just be great plus. It's great plus, borderline amazing, just because of the unpredictability factor of like, okay, what are we getting next? And that is gonna be, in my opinion, especially with Onev. Like, if I were to bet anything, I would say 100% Onev is gonna pull some shit on the crew, and I do believe Onev could definitely be a reason of why the time skip still takes place. I'm 100% certain about that. Onev's gonna do something, and that's gonna lead into the time skip. And I could be wrong. If I'm proven wrong, I'm proven wrong. But again, like an hour and 30 minutes into the stream, it's been a lot of fun talking about Eden Zero again. And when 236 drops, you know for damn sure I'll be back here and I'll be talking about it. So overall rating on these chapters of Eden Zero, great plus, borderline amazing. We're going somewhere, and it's looking a little bleak. It's looking a little bleak when it comes to the crew, and where we're gonna go is where my curiosity stands. But for the most part, guys, that's pretty much all I gotta say for these chapters of Eden Zero. How do you guys feel about the Eden Zero reunion arc? How do you guys feel about Onev in the picture, in the flesh? And what do you guys think this means for the future of the story? For the remainder of the story, I should say, because we are in the Universe Zero saga. So, if I were to play a prediction game right now as to how much time we still got left with Eden Zero, well, keep in mind Chapter 230 ends off Volume 26. So, we still got 4 more chapters to wrap up Volume 27. If I were to guess, let's say 9 volumes max is what we got left. I want to say like at least at the very least 9 volumes. And if we continue on the 9 chapter streak per volume, let's see here. So 9 chapters per volume. And my estimate guess right now would be like 35 volumes in total. Because I highly doubt we're gonna get 40. Or not 40. I highly doubt 30 is gonna be our ending point. No, we have to rush a lot to get to 30. I don't think we're gonna end this in 30 volumes either. There's still a number of things we gotta deal with before we get there. So okay, the shortest I could see us going is like maybe volume 33, which would be like 7 volumes. Like 32, 33. I still don't think that'd be enough. So let's say predominantly like 6 to 10 volumes. I want to say like the closest number I could see us getting to is like maybe 9. Closest number, 9 volumes. And again, if we're going, because again, if we are to led to believe that there's going to be, and this thing's only going to go up to volume 30, 27 would end off on chapter 239. Okay, 4 chapters. 28 would end off on 248. 29 would end up on 258. No, 257. 257. 29 would end off on 266. 30 would end off on chapter 275. 275. Yeah, so 275. And he said, and Hero did state this. Hero stated that Eden Zero could be a little bit longer than Rave Master, but shorter than Fairy Tail. Because Fairy Tail was like 500 and some odd chapters. Eden Zero is not getting there. I'll say that right now. So If it was 30, not only would that be shorter than Rave Master, that'd still be like 20 chapters off. And again, that's just going up to volume 30. So 275 would be the end point of volume 30. Now, if you add an extra like an extra 5 volumes, that's 45. So that would put it at, let me think here, 284 for volume 31, 293 for volume 32, 302 for volume 33, 34 would have to be 311, and then 320 would be for volume 35. And that would still hit, actually. What would that be like? 320, right? So, by all accounts, let's say 90 chapters. Okay, if we're counting from where we currently are, so 235, right? And we're estimating it to end at chapter 320. 320 would put it at, hold on, let me do the math in my head. So 65 plus 235 would be 300. So 85 more chapters, give or take. 85 more chapters to wrap up Eden Zero. That's possible. Now, if we're going to go a little bit lower than that, so 302, I already said this. So 35 would be, well, okay. So volume 35 would be 320. The last chapter, if I were to guess. 311 would be volume 34. And volume 33 would be 302. So 33 would be 302. 34 would be 311. And then 35 would be 320. So 77. Yeah, so like let's say like 77 to like 85. Yeah. So like 77 to like 85 chapters at the least. No. Wait. Hold on a second. I'm just done mental math in this in my head again. So 230, 239, 27, 29, 30. Okay. So yeah, like let's say volume 34, like at least by the time volume 33 hits, it'll be above or Rage Master, I think. So I would say like relatively volume 33, volume 35. So give or take 77 to 85 chapters at the most. And with that, I'm going to call it a stream here, you guys. It's been a lot of fun talking about Eden Zero, especially talking about logistics as to like how many more chapters we potentially have left. Again, if Hero still wants to hit the up, like be just slightly above Rave Master, but below Fairy Tale, That still relatively puts us at least an additional like 7 to 9 volumes tops, easy. Relatively 77 to 85 chapters, if I were to take a guess. So I believe it's 85 chapters. Let me double check real quick. Hmm. I know I'm not ending the stream here, guys, but that's only just because I'm still like just mental math in this in my head. So I'm like, because I want to make sure I'm accurate with this. Okay, so 239 would be the end of volume 27. So 27, 248 would be volume 28, 29 would be 257, 266 30, 75 would be 31. Yeah, I'll just say that just because at this point I'm just rambling on. So relatively 77 to 85 or 86. Hold on. Yeah. So around 77 to 85 chapters, give or take. But with that being said, you guys are from legit. I'm like G7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Eden Zero. And thanks for sticking around with me if y'all are still a part of this. And I'll catch you guys again when chapter 236 drops. And potentially if I do, and actually no, maybe see even sooner than that because I do want to do a video on ONEV, before 236 comes out. So with that being said, you guys, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.